My family came out to the Barossa Valley from Germany in 1888, so that's 130 something years ago, with the intention really of continuing what was a lifelong legacy back there in Germany and Austria of growing grapes and making wine. And the Barossa Valley just turned out to be the place that they chose. Some of the original pioneering vineyard plantings were planted by my ancestors, and I'm now fifth, five and a half, I suppose you could say, generation here, which makes me almost a local, because the Barossa Valley is one of the oldest grape growing regions in Australia. The oldest vines we have here, and certainly our vineyards, 145 years old. There is a huge diversity of Australian wines around, but also there's a massive diversity in what is available from the Barossa Valley. Some of which is not exported, a lot of which is, but in very small volumes. There's around about 16 to 17 different soil types in the Barossa Valley. And the soil type really does vary depending on obviously alluvial flats up to Eden Valley, which is still part of Barossa, which is quite cool, quite high altitude. So we get everything from Riesling all the way through to big fortified styles and lots in between. Well, the really importance of making world-class wines is making sure you have world-class vineyards. And it doesn't mean you have the prettiest vineyard in the world, and it doesn't mean you have the most manicured. It basically means you are producing fruit that is symbolic of the soil that's given and the climate that's there. We opt for very minimal intervention in the vineyard, also in the winery for that matter. Everything we do is using organic principles. One thing I don't want to do though is be labelled as an organic producer, purely from the point of view that what I've found there is you either go down that path and become branded as an organic producer and you're left with all the organic producers, or you just adopt the principles which I think should be integral in making any wine. You use any principle that is sustainable, that's in the best interest of the fruit going forward. In the last 4 or 5 years there has been a large focus on the more artisanal producers, and a lot of younger second, third generation, fourth generation vignerons are starting to actually develop their own labels from the family properties. There are also many people that have come in that have secured good fruit sources and are making small batch wines that really do identify with the fruit source. There's always a balancing act in between tradition and I guess modern knowledge. I think working in other regions as a winemaker, in fact anyone involved in the wine industry, really does need to expand their horizons. It's very easy to become, what a lot of people do is develop what we call a cellar palate, which is where their wine is always the best. They reluctantly taste the next door neighbour's wine, let alone anything from overseas. That's happening less and less now, which is again why we're seeing better and better quality wines, because people are travelling and visiting other wine regions. I spent well over 12 months thereabouts in France, off and on, visiting people, visiting wineries and understanding techniques. And you can always learn more when you're talking to someone who's made a wine or been involved in the production, and you can sort of taste what they're aiming to achieve. It's pretty easy to work out. Sometimes they hit it, sometimes they miss it. But if the passion's there, then they miss it very, very rarely.